All right. Now I'm going to talk about an aspect of cultural Marxism that I think, to be honest, is somewhat underanalyzed in the alt-right sphere, and that is architecture. Now, there's that one good page on Facebook, Architecture MCMXVII, whatever it's called. But aside from that, it's a bit under-examined. Architecture and also visual art in general. Now, I don't consider myself a national socialist. You know, I disagree with Hitler on some things, but one thing that Hitler did get very right was that he saw the role of art in the attempt to change society in the early stages of what has now become cultural Marxism. That's why Nazi Germany had the degenerate art exhibition, where they exhibited all this shitty artwork. And now that kind of shitty artwork is ubiquitous in museums. It's pretty much everything that is new art today, and it sells for thousands of dollars, and it's considered to be so talented and prestigious, but it's crap. It's something a fucking kindergarten kid could have made. It's literally like a chicken scratching its claws on a fucking canvas. It's the most debauched fucking shit possible. It is absolute garbage. And you can see this in architecture as well. Like in my home city of Toronto, they made this addition to the Royal Ontario Museum where they added this big glass piece of shit onto this, beautiful, elegant old building that made up the museum. And they ruined it. They raped it. And there was no need for it. And I think the cultural Marxist attitude toward architecture is kind of a metaphor for their attitude towards society in general. And it's a very important aspect of it. Essentially, their philosophy towards architecture is that we need to take something that works and completely change it to something that doesn't work. We need to take a perfectly good thing and ruin it. We need to take something that has nothing wrong about it and make it wrong. Just because we need to have change for the sake of change. And that's kind of their attitude toward race as well. Like, we need to have change for the sake of change. We can't remain white. We can't remain Western. We can't remain Christian. We can't remain any of these things because we need change for the sake of change. Even if it's change to something that is inferior, like objectively inferior, measurably inferior. And that is the case with architecture because what they advocate is ugly shit. Just look at post-war Berlin. It's fucking hideous. Any German post-war city. Ugh. Or the shit they built in London to replace the buildings destroyed there. It's fucking garbage. And you can see in London with the old buildings that survived the Blitz compared to the new ones side by side, or a lot of European cities, you can see this contrast. Budapest, for instance, various other cities too, Vienna. You can see this contrast, and it's like night and day. It's like heaven and hell. It's like the new architecture is fucking garbage, and it's abrasive. It's aggressively ugly. It's in your face ugly. It seeks to sort of take its ugliness and shove it into your face and say, well, this is new, and you're going to accept it because it's new. But new does not mean better. And there's a reason why tourists, they flock to places like Venice to see beautiful old architecture, but nobody wants to see this, like, modernist trash. Like, it's fucking horse shit, Like, modernist architecture, like, words cannot describe how soulless and vacant it is. It's just like surfaces of concrete and glass with no details. Like, if you look at old architecture, there's all kinds of different shapes and textures and colors. Like, you have statues everywhere. You have windows that are intricately designed. Just all kinds of, like, rooftops, very intricate rooftops, colonnaded, I guess you could call it, latticed. I don't know the exact terminology, but it's very intricate. Like, you can look at one of these old buildings and just stare at it for a minute on end and still not make out every detail. New buildings that are built, in the latter half of the 20th century or since World War II, you can look at it for 2 seconds and make out every detail that there is to make out. So, yeah, that's basically the degradation of architecture is kind of a metaphor for the degradation of society in general. And it's part of cultural Marxism because the intention of degrading architecture is to degrade the sense of national pride and to promote the globalist ideal of sameness. If the architecture in one country is the same boring, bland, generic, modernist crap as the architecture in the next country, then it's because we're all the same. We're all one world, all one boring glass and concrete coated world, the old world had different architectural styles from one country to the next. From Spain, Portugal, France, Belgium, Holland, Germany, Denmark. You get a vastly different architectural style in each country. But modernism seeks to replace that with just the same bland, generic shit everywhere. And it decreases national pride, and it takes away, like, old architecture pays homage to religion, to mythology, and new architecture pays homage to nothing except nihilism, really. And that's what it is. It's nihilistic. And all it says is, well, you can't say that something is objectively better. It's subjective, man. Yeah, well, you know what? Shit does not objectively smell bad. So I encourage you to go stand in a fucking porta potty for 2 hours on end, okay? No, I mean, I'm serious. How can you say that shit objectively smells bad? It's subjective, right? I mean, how do you objectively say a smell is good or bad? Well, you know what? My answer is you just know, okay? It's a stupid fucking debate, this objectivity versus subjectivity debate. It's quite frankly fucking autistic, okay? We all know that shit smells bad, all right? We don't need it to be objectively measurable by some mathematic scale. We just know it. It's just something intuitive in our brains. Just like there's something intuitive in our brains that tells us that the Louvre is a beautiful building while modernist shit is bland and boring. Okay? So that is basically why architecture is an important part of cultural Marxism, and why, in order to defeat cultural Marxism, we have to look back toward antiquity and re-embrace those forms of architecture. We can keep developing it moving forward, but we have to go back there and start where we left off. Architecture was evolving, and there was good architecture even in the 19th century, even in the early 20th century, but we have to go back to there and keep evolving in a good direction. Like if we want to go toward, I don't know, like Jules Verne type futurism or something like that, fine, but it has to be something beautiful. It can't be this ugly fucking soulless shit we have today, okay? So that's my rant on architecture, and I hope that everybody, when you go out in the world around you, you see how architecture is a very important part of what is happening to Western civilization in the present day.